Hey, it's Christine Grace. Welcome back to my channel. Today is another reaction video. Like the video on your way in, let's get straight into it.
This video was inspired by a short that I did that got over 5 million views, 7,000 comments, and made some waves around the YouTube world. What was really surprising to me was
it's actually that short that brought me here today.
I mean, the things that I said in the video and then the comments of all the other things that the men were saying that were brought to my attention. So as always on this channel, what I'm trying to do is really to bring empathy and understanding between the sexes, to provide different perspectives from men and from women to really heal some of the division that we have today. So let's start with the first one and let me see what you think. Ladies, if you're watching, please try and come with an open heart and an open mind, as men do have their own experience. And the beautiful thing about being a feminine woman is our ability to show empathy and love towards everyone. I think that's why men love us so much, is when we truly embrace our feminine energy, we have the capability of healing, quite frankly, the freaking world. So try and come with an open mind when you hear some of these things. So the first one that caught my attention was,
yeah, you can ask women to come with an open mind all you want, but they typically don't.
That a woman can hit a man and he must have deserved it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He must have done something to provoke it. But if a man were to hit a woman in defense of something that she was potentially doing, then, well, he's, you know, whatever you want to call him, a misogynist, a woman beater, all sorts of things. He can't necessarily fight back to defend himself. He basically has to just sit there and take it. So when I was doing a lot of research and a lot of work on domestic violence,
it's funny how the feminists want you to believe that men and women are the same until it doesn't benefit them.
And how that happens within different family structures. What I have found a lot of the times, the research does not lie in this, that women often contribute to domestic violence in the homes. It's not just the man. Unfortunately, you know, men are stronger. They have more testosterone. So when they do fight back, there reaches a peak, and they can be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to the damage that they cause. But to say that women don't incite violence on their significant other, to say that women are just all innocent little flowers that aren't causing any trouble within their relationships, I think that that's something that a man really has to think about before he really defends himself in any situation when it comes to a woman. He just physically can't. I've actually had personal friendships and stories that were told to me from male friends where their wife or their significant other was being violent towards them, and they were the ones that ended up in jail. When the cops came, they separated him and her, and automatically the assumption is that he was the one that was in the wrong. So I think that that's something that we have to think about and show empathy in regards to our men. And it's a serious thing. Let's move on to number 2. Men who are stay-at-home dads always get compared to mothers and what.
But yeah, if you compared a woman to a man in the workplace, oh, that's sexist.
That means is I actually had a guy write me and say that he was at the park with his 3 daughters and they were playing, having a great time. And then there was a group of moms that walked over to him and said, "Oh, are you playing mom today?" And he basically just said, "No, I'm playing dad today."
Rightly so.
It's kind of this joke that a man can't take his kids to the park, a man can't raise his children. There's tons of things.
And yet it's the same women that will complain that their man never does it. You wonder why?
Dads that I know that actually have taken custody over their children and are playing mom and playing dad. So the role of the father is kind of, you know, denigrated in our society. They're the ones that are supposed to go to work. They're the ones that are supposed to, you know, be the provider. But when it comes to playing a little bit more the mom role, there seems to be some judgment there, and it is a double standard. Take, for example, I mean, my brother was a big soccer dad. He was the best soccer dad of all dads, almost more obsessed with his kids' soccer than my sister-in-law. Like he would, sometimes would be the one to drive them 2 or 3 hours away when my sister-in-law actually had to work on the weekends. And so there's just this double standard that a man can't play that role, that a man can't be like the nurturer or the one that's really stable and knows how to pack a lunch for their child. It's kind of ridiculous, but we need men in our children's lives. And I know that a lot of men are trying to be more present fathers than their fathers were, because they didn't necessarily have the nurturing or the care from their fathers, right? They were like the strong, silent type. A lot of the baby boomer men in that generation were kind of hard, right? Use the belt. We're pretty difficult to deal with at times. So there's a bunch of men, right, who are trying to change the narrative for their children. And I think that we need to embrace that as women. We need to embrace.
Yeah, I mean, typically those men are still better than the ones that are raised by single mothers. So even with, the harsh, silent dad type that use the belt, those guys are still better than the ones that are raised by single mothers.
And congratulate a man if we see him at the park, like, wow, that's amazing that you're here, and like it's don't even make a big deal out of it. Like, he's just being a good father, and that's incredibly important.
It's, I don't even know. I think that's a real reflection of the woman, because it's not that weird to see a dad in the park. Like, it's really not. My dad used to take me to the park all the time. That was like our thing. My mum would stay home doing the washing and the ironing, and my dad would take me to the park. Also, my friends' dads would take them to the park. Like, it's not an odd thing. It's really not.
Especially nowadays when there is still a lack of fathers in the home. Number 3. Well, I think this might ruffle a couple feathers and get men up in arms, but the double standard of when you go to divorce court. There was a clip circling around YouTube, TikTok. A man kind of went viral overnight. He was a divorce lawyer. I can't necessarily recall his name off the top of my head, but he, had tattoos and sleeves and rolled up his sleeves, a white shirt. And he was on a whole bunch of different podcasts. He's making the rounds. And one of the clips that I saw, I actually watched the whole 1-hour interview about what he basically thought about marriage and divorce and how it's a failing technology in today's society. But one of the things he said was a woman is only as strong a feminist as when she is told that she has to pay alimony.
That's a good one. That's a real good one.
She basically denounces feminism, even though she was making 2, 3, 4, 5 times more than he was, and wants to maintain that lifestyle. But it's completely double standards, especially when it comes to the check. I mean, women want their independence until that check comes to the table, right? So
facts. It's always the women that, say they're feminists, but then go, yeah, but a guy has to pay the bill. You're a gentleman. What? Pick a lane.
Again, I think this is a double standard that you can't deny, ladies. None of us can deny this, that divorce, and the courts especially, do not favor men in the slightest. Number 4. If a man isn't in the mood or turns down his wife or his girlfriend or his partner, he gets shamed for it. But if a woman isn't in the mood, obviously a man can't really say much about that. I've heard this from so many guys that they're tired after work, especially as a man gets older, his testosterone isn't raging right anymore. So sometimes they're just not in the mood. They just want to sleep or watch TV or veg in front of the couch and watch sports. And the amount of men that have told me that the woman in their life has a temper tantrum, has walked.
Just imagine for a second it was the other way around. Just imagine.
Into the other room and stomped off, felt rejected, went into the bedroom, started crying, like made waterworks because she felt rejected, versus men get rejected every day, especially in their relationships, right? They are probably 90% game, but the 10% that they're not.
Yeah. It gets treated like something. But the second that a woman isn't in the mood, but yet the man really wants to, it's, he's abusive. This is like borderline rape. That is probably the worst double standard.
there seems to be a problem. And that's why it made the list, because it is 100% a double standard. This is kind of a unique one, the fifth one. I read it, a comment on the short that I had put out. The guy said that when we go out to dinner, when the waiter comes or the sommelier comes and talks to them about the wine list or has any questions, right? Like the waiter will always look at his wife. But then when the check comes, the waiter will always place the bill to me.
That's a very interesting observation.
And I thought, wow, I mean, I don't think a lot of men, they don't complain about having to pay the bill, right? Like they don't necessarily, they know that this is part of being a man. Okay, I have to court a woman. I'm the protector, I'm the provider, right? Like it's my obligation to kind of do these things. I have to pay. I think the
issue is that in 2025, it shouldn't be like that. Because what are they getting in return? It's not an even playing field anymore. That's the issue. I think it's the injustice on men. If they were getting something worthy in return, then of course they're not going to mind doing this stuff. But it's like, how much do they have to take before saying enough is enough?
And that's their role, or they understand that that's kind of just part of being a man. As unfortunate as it is, like it's just the way that our society works. But what they do want in return is just a little bit of respect, right? Like ask him, what do you think, sir? I think from the waiter's perspective, or if you're a woman and you're sitting there with a man and you see that happening, you almost have to sense it, right? And have an intuition, or have an intuitive sense as a woman to kind of look to her man and make sure that he is also being acknowledged. I thought that was just so, that's something that a woman would never have to think about. Because it's true. As I thought about it and as I read the comment, I go, oh my gosh, he's right. Like the check is never placed in front of the woman, or the check is placed on his side and the waitress or whatever. And it's probably because we're more picky, obviously. Like they know that women are going to have more questions on the menu. But still, it is something that I think that we need to, that made the list, because I thought, wow, like that's kind of a unique one. But it does happen. And number 6, a man is expected to fix things around the house, to be the man of the house, to kill the spiders, to change the light bulbs, to do all the things. But when it comes to a traditional woman who cooks, who cleans, women want men to do all of the cleaning tasks. Women want men to do their share of the housework because, well, you're an adult too. What about taking the trash out? Oh my gosh, I listen to Americans too much. Rubbish. What about taking the rubbish out? What about, fixing the light bulb? What about, the door fell off the shed? Then it's, oh no, you need to do that because you're the man. Who potentially does his laundry, who makes a home. That is too much. She doesn't want to mother him. She doesn't want to be the housekeeper, right? There's all these other conditions that come with it. But now this doesn't happen to everyone. I know there are plenty of women who have no problem getting up on a ladder and changing a light bulb. But I will say that it's terrifying. It is terrifying. I'm always scared I'm going to get electrocuted. This did make the list because I think that it's more common than people realize, especially talking to, the men in my community and also reading a lot of the comments. I mean, this had probably 4,000 likes, as in absolutely guys that 100% deal with this at home. So traditional gender roles, I understand they are going away a little bit because we're both working, we're both busy, we're both tired. Everyone is really just doing their best to pay the bills. But at the same time, to be a man, you're still expected to pay the bill. I think that we need to acknowledge, or again, a man does not mind doing these things, but at least say thank you, be so appreciative, and then he'll continue to do more, because men really love praise. They love the validation and they love positive praise, especially coming from their woman. I think that when it starts to become a resentment for them and when they start to really notice it is when they keep on doing it and aren't receiving any thanks. It just kind of becomes a part of something that's expected. And then men, of course, on the flip side, if she does make you a good meal and she does provide for you from a nourishment standpoint, I think it's important for you to also, appreciate that and show that you understand that was hard work for her. Just in our relationships, we just can't take things for granted, I think is really the takeaway from that. And number 7, this one is a known fact from a statistical standpoint that men face greater prison time, men face harsher punishments from a punitive standpoint in our legal system for the same crime committed. This one hits very close to home because I have a brother who is sitting behind bars. That's one of the reasons why I got into this and am doing what I'm doing. I don't talk about it a lot publicly because it is something that happened between, that's a private situation with my family. I don't really like to talk too much about my personal life, but it is, of course, he deserved what he did. He deserved the time and he is serving that time. But at the same time, he is a very big man, 6'4", over 300 pounds. And I would say that there is a bit of a prejudice when it comes to even the way that a man looks. If he is deemed to be dangerous, even though he could be a gentle giant, people are going to judge him for his size, and they're going to think that he could potentially be more dangerous than he really is. So I'm not saying that people don't deserve to go to prison. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that a man, if he makes a mistake, does not need to serve that time. I mean, don't get me started on the justice system and what I think about prison. In this country, it's way more punitive than it is reparative. But that's another video. I think, though, that's what the statistics are, and we have to acknowledge that is a double standard. So I'm sure there are probably 50.
There's a case in the UK, the case of Charles Bronson. I haven't looked into it too deeply. I've watched the movie. I've read a few things here and there. But Bronson has been locked up. As far as I'm aware, Bronson's quite a big guy. And he has been locked up for decades. And he's never murdered anyone. He's never actually killed anyone. And yet he's been behind bars longer than people who have. And it's because of this idea of image and how he's presented. I'd be intrigued to know if you guys know the case of Charles Bronson and if I should look into it more, because he's still behind bars now. I think there was meant to be a review or something not too long ago, to look at whether he should be released, but I don't know if he'll ever get released. But yeah, men definitely are discriminated against in all forms of the law. Another one I would say, which I haven't heard her mention, the double standard of war. Men are pawned off to war. Men are the ones that have to fight for everything. Men are the ones that have all of the societal expectation. If a country goes to war, who's expected to go and fight on the front line? Men. Most women will gladly say, no, I don't want to go fight on the front lines. I want the men to do that. But yet, when you ask women of their societal expectation, you would hope that they would be able to say that they provide some kind of value, but they can't, because they don't believe that it should be a societal expectation for them to be mothers and wives and have children and reproduce. So what other things do you offer that men can't? You're not going to fight on the front lines. You can't do jobs as good as men. So what else do you have to offer? Oh no, you can't just say that I should be a wife and make babies. No, that's misogynistic. So what else do you have to offer, ladies? But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up on the way out. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all of my content. If you have a video you'd like me to react to, you can reach out to me on my various social media platforms or drop me an email. And on that note, I will see you very soon in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.